Coming to you from the Deep South, this is the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. High impact leadership is not reserved for leaders, and it has nothing to do with your position, title, or rank. However, it does have everything to do with your character. It's time to climb to the next level and beyond, personally and professionally. Now, let's start making it happen with your host, Max Story.
Hello, and thanks for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast today. Well, folks, if you've been a regular listener for a while, you know today we're on part 30, trait 30, I should say, on my book, Blue Collar Leadership and Teamwork, 30 Traits of High Impact Players. But we're about to wrap this series up based on content from that book. And this last trait is pretty powerful. It's powerful all by itself. But when you apply this trait to the previous 29 traits, there's a lot of synergy in there. A lot of power will come from it. I hope you've actually been motivated and inspired enough to go purchase the real book or listen to it on audio. But I still highly recommend these kind of books. Even if you like listening on audio, you probably need a paperback version because you need to be able to see it. Some of this stuff. You need to be able to highlight it, mark it up. I know you can do that in electronic books too, and audio books not so easy. But these books are not just for entertainment. They're not just for going over once. If you're going to be relentless about your personal growth and development, you're going to go over a lot of the same content many, many times. So it needs to be easy to get to. If you listen to an audio book, it ain't easy to get to that quote on that page. I know I listen to a lot. I ain't saying don't listen to audiobooks. I've listened to a lot of audiobooks. You're listening to my podcast now. I listen to podcasts. I'm just saying this type content, this specific content, there's a book for it, and the book's got other information. I hope you'll consider getting it and learning how to use a book as a tool. That's what these books are. It's hard to pull out an audio and show a teammate a quote in a book or read it to them when you want to share it again later. But you can do that with a book. That's why I used to carry a backpack full of books around with me when I was leading lean manufacturing process improvement. But let's talk about this trait. Be relentless. That's what I am relative to my personal growth. I'm relentless. That's why for 15 years plus, I read every day. If you're a regular listener, you've heard that a million times. I don't know if you've heard it in this context to talk about this trait. Again, you can tell the same story to talk about things in different ways, different contexts. I could teach one principle and tell 15 different stories to teach the same exact principle. But that's an example of me being relentless, nonstop, 15 plus years, every day reading something related to personal growth and development. If that ain't relentless, I don't know what is. But I got the evidence to prove in my personal life and my professional life the payoff I've got from doing that. Because I've learned thousands of other traits and I've learned to apply them, and I've heard the same trait with a different story or the same principle with a different story because I'm relentless. I didn't hear one principle in one story. I've probably heard the same principle taught multiple ways. I hear people who get introduced to my books and then they'll tell me later they've read some other books that I had talked about, or they had heard somebody else talk about, or they listened to a different podcast. And one of the most common things I hear is, well, all y'all really saying the same thing. You're just saying it a different way. When somebody says that, what they mean is we're teaching the same principles, but we're telling different stories. That's what it means. So I want to start off with a quote from Lyndon B. Johnson. He had this to say. We're talking about being relentless. So here we go with his quote. If we succeed, it will not be because of what we have, but it will be because of what we are. Not because of what we own, but rather because of what we believe. That's pretty powerful. What we believe. Do you believe you need to be relentless to get from where you are to where you want to be? Do you need to be a part of a team that's full of relentless team members? They're not going to stop. They're not going to slow down. They're going to make it happen. I promise you, a team of Navy SEALs are full of people who are relentless. I promise you, any team who's killing it together to get results in their organization, they got a team of relentless people on there. It's based on what they believe. Remember, I talked about last time, the last episode, I was talking about being realistic. I talked about values, and your values determining what you think. Well, your values are basically what you believe. What you believe. So let's talk about being relentless relative to failure. Relentless people, a failure is just a little speed bump in the road. They know this right here. Until you quit, you haven't failed. You only fail when you quit. As soon as you quit, you're done. You could be succeeding and quit, and in that moment, you just turn success into failure. You don't have to be failing and quit to fail. You can be succeeding. You could be well on your way to accomplishing the mission and then just quit. And as soon as you do, you fail in that moment. But right the opposite could happen. You could also be failing. But if you haven't quit, you ain't failed yet. You could be failing, but you haven't failed until you quit. So if you're failing, but you're relentless, that just means you're learning. It's not really failing, it's learning. So as you strive to climb to the next level and beyond, your goal shouldn't be to be better than everyone on your team. Your goal as a high impact team player should be to be relentlessly helping everyone on your team get better. High impact team players are relentless relative to their personal growth and development, but they're also relentlessly helping everyone on their team get better. You see, a lot of people who follow me and follow my stuff, they're all about personal growth and development, and that's phenomenal. But where a lot of them drop the ball is they're really not fired up and charged up to help those people around them climb to the next level. Sometimes it's the top leader. I do for many people what top leaders ought to be doing for those people, but they don't have a top leader who's willing to do that. The top leader's not relentless, and that's okay. But I am. So I help grow and develop a lot of leaders' teams. I do it for free. They don't have to pay me. They don't even know I'm doing it. A lot of times I don't even know the leader. A lot of times I've never supported their organization. I talk to strangers all the time, multiple strangers each week, sometimes for 3 or 4 hours in one phone call. I mean, it just happened recently, a couple different times, a couple different people. I didn't know the people before. I didn't know the leader before. I mean, I still don't know their leader. I don't know nothing about those people or their organization. What I know is I'm doing something for that person that their leader is not doing for them. They don't have a leader that wants to help them grow and develop the way that I do. And remember, I'm not talking about toot my own horn here. I'm just giving you an example of how I'm relentless. And I do it for free. I had one 4-hour phone call the other week, and I was about to starve, and I went and made some supper and got it on my plate, about to eat it, and the phone rang again, and my supper was 3 hours or 3.5 hours later. I got to eat finally because I didn't care. I'm relentless. I wanted to help somebody more than I wanted to eat supper. I can eat supper later. I may not be able to help that person later. That's just one example. And I'm sure there's many of you who are listening who've had some of those calls with me. Some of you may have only had one call, and some of you may have calls with me fairly often. But I'm going to relentlessly help people. You may not be on a call with me every day, But it's more often than not, I'm on a call with somebody every day. I talk to people all the time, different people. So they don't understand I'm talking to people all the time. But I do. Rhea does. Be relentless. You want to be a high impact team player, be relentless. I'm on a whole lot of teams. Nobody knows it except for me and the person I'm talking to. Their team don't know it. Their boss don't know it. Their CEO don't know it. But I know it and they know it. They feel it. When they talk to me, they feel it. They know I'm on their team. I want to help them climb to the next level and beyond, whatever that means in their life. My number is 334-728-4143. I'll talk to you if you call me. I always tell people I'm always open, but I ain't always available. What that means, sometimes I'm speaking, sometimes I'm traveling, sometimes I'm mowing the lawn, sometimes I'm sleeping. Sometimes I'm on the beach and I ain't got nothing on me that's going to let me know somebody's calling. You still call. I'm still open. I just ain't available. I'll usually call you back within 12 hours, usually no later than 24. I can't help you unless you give me an opportunity. But you already know your teammates aren't living up to their full potential. I'll tell you another secret. Neither are you. I'm going to tell you something that ain't a secret to me, but it may be a secret to you. Neither am I. Michael Josephson said it best. You don't have to be sick to get better. But it'd help if you know the principle in that quote I just shared. You don't have to be sick to get better. You ain't good enough. I'm here to tell you right now, you ain't good enough. You ain't close to being good enough. Not if you want to be relentless about getting better. If you desire to be a high impact player, there's only two people you should compare yourself to. The one you were yesterday and the one you're capable of becoming tomorrow. That's what high impact players do. They reflect on who they were yesterday, who they want to be tomorrow. And then they get busy today making it happen, closing the gap. Comparing yourself to who you were yesterday allows you to see if you're doing something each day to intentionally get better, especially in the area of character. That's why I read personal growth, leadership development books every day. It's the one thing that I know I can do, or listening to audio or watching videos on the same subject. Doesn't have to be reading. But that's one thing that I know I can do, that when I look back on what did I do yesterday to get better today, I read something yesterday. I can do lots of other things. I can write stuff. I can record these podcasts. You may say, well, how does recording a podcast make you better? Because I get to refresh this stuff in my mind. I get to tell it. I get to tell it a different way. I get to mix it with what I've learned in the last day or two. All kinds of ways it helps me get better when I record a podcast for somebody else. Comparing yourself to who you could become tomorrow, if you were living up to your full potential, allows you to evaluate how far you still have to go. See, it's so easy to look out the window, find somebody doing worse than you, and say, I'm fine, I'm good to go. My life's great compared to those people, or I'm better than them, whatever you want to say. But it's also just as easy to look out the window and find somebody you're not doing as well as they are. If you're willing to compare yourself to those folks and say, I ain't accomplishing nothing. That's what I do all the time. I look at all the people who have accomplished so much more than me, and I think I ain't even got started yet. I'm just getting warmed up. I'm pathetic. And other people think, man, you've written 15 books. You speak all over the country. You do this, this, and this, and this. If I was taking that measurement and measuring it against people who don't do anything like that, I could just hang out, put me a hammock up in between the trees, just sleep all day and do nothing. I've already arrived. but I'm relentless. I ain't even close to what I'm capable of being. So I keep climbing. That's why I always say, if you see me on social media, most of the time, at the end of my post, I say, keep climbing. That's what I mean. Be relentless. You ain't good enough. Your teammates ain't good enough. Your organization ain't good enough. I ain't good enough. So when we're talking about being relentless, let's go through the exercise I've been asking you on all these other traits. If you get to pick between two people to be on your team, you got to work with them every day. You want someone who is relentless at accomplishing the mission, or you want somebody who's going to give up the moment it gets, the opposite. The moment it gets tough, they throwing up their hands, they giving up. They might even quit. That might be what it means. They're going to quit the team. Now you're going to be one team member short. Now you're going to have to train somebody else. You got to go through all that again. Now you got to carry the load of the missing teammate because they're a quitter. So if you got to pick one person out of two, all you know about them, one is relentless. One quits when the going gets tough. Which one do you want the boss to hire to bring on your team? If you're a high impact player, you want the one who's relentless. If you're the low impact player, you may want the quitter. See how this works? Because if you get a low impact player to get to pick, they want to pick the one that's going to quit, make them look good. They make the one that's going to give up, make them look good. See how it works? It's all about context. But if you're a high impact team player, which is what this entire series is about, you want the one that's relentless, that won't give up. Because you're relentless and you're not going to give up. They ain't going to make you look bad. They're going to help you look good. Guess what you're going to do? You're going to help them look good. So the real question is, again, it's easy to look out the window if you're a high impact player. Know which one you'd pick. But the key is to look in the mirror. See which one are you? Are you relentless? And I ain't talking about what you say with your mouth. What's your behavior in life say? Do some real reflection. Look around that blind spot. Look in the mirror. Pick a spot in your life where you are totally committed and relentless. What spot is that? I can tell you. I don't have to think about it. I can tell you because I do it. I live it. 15 years reading personal growth every day. That's an area I'm relentless in. I don't have to think about it. Anybody, anywhere, anytime can ask me that. I got that same answer. When I asked it to you a minute ago, if you got to think about it, you probably ain't relentless in any area. You'd know the answer instantly. Doesn't mean you're a bad person, but it means you got opportunity to get better. If you want to be a high impact player, and I assume you do if you're listening to this podcast. So as you strive to improve, don't allow the fear of failure to hold you back. So many people can't get from where they are to where they want to be because they're afraid of failing. They don't realize that most highly successful people have a track record of failure, but they also have a track record of overcoming those failures. That's why they're successful. Then you'll see some people who've never accomplished much. They don't have a track record of failure, but they also don't have a track record of success. If you're afraid of failure, you got work to do. What most people refer to as failure, it's not even failure anyway. It's learning. It's learning. It ain't failing. It's learning. You learn through failure. Think about this, and Rhea and I wrote about this. I write about it in a lot of my books, and one of us, I think I probably did it, but I'm not sure. We wrote that book together, but we wrote our own separate chapters. But anyway, it's in the book, Change Happens, Leading Yourself and Others Through Change. And I talk about infants learning to walk. So put it in that context when you think about failure and learning and success. Do we say infants are failing to walk or learning to walk? When you see a parent and they got a little baby that's starting to try to stand up and take steps and all that sort of stuff, do the parents run around telling everybody, "Oh, look at little Johnny, he's failing to walk"? No, that ain't what they say. They say, "Look at him, he's learning to walk." We say they're learning to walk because we know what the outcome will be. They won't fail to walk, although they appear to be failing continuously. They literally are failing to walk. They fall down, fall forward, fall sideways, fall backward. They fall every kind of way a baby can fall. Sometimes they get hurt. Sometimes they got to get stitches. Sometimes they have a big old bruise. They got all kind of things that can happen. As long as they don't fall off a cliff, they're going to learn to walk. They fall off a cliff, they may not learn to walk. That's a different story. Because see, babies are relentless. You were relentless many times in your life. I assume you know how to walk if you listen to this podcast. That means you have it in you to be relentless. You had to be relentless to learn to walk. See, what you didn't have when you were learning to walk was a lot of people trying to get you not to walk. You had people motivating you, encouraging you, helping you, holding your hands. You had all kind of help and support. You didn't have people pushing you down, holding you down, stopping you from walking, hollering and screaming at you every time you tried to walk to keep you, train you not to try to stretch yourself. But see, as you get older, could you imagine could you imagine if babies could talk when they were started walking, if they could talk and understand, and communicate through language like we do? Them babies would be laying around. They'd start telling each other, "Hey, you see what happened to little Johnny the other day? He fell, busted his head, got 10 stitches. You sure you want to try to walk? Man, what's going to happen when you start trying to walk? If you're actually successful, how you going to stop? Have you thought about that?" Most babies would never learn to walk if they had other babies tell them how bad it was going to be, how they could hurt themselves, all these stuff that people do to you as you grow older. But they can't do it unless you let them do it. You don't have to listen to anybody if you don't want to listen to them. You can do what I've done for 15 years. You can read books, listen to podcasts, watch videos, mentor yourself through other people who want to help you. That's why I do this podcast. I want to help you. If you're listening, you're allowing me to help you. But I cannot help you like you can help you. No matter how great you are, you can always get better. Are you willing to be relentless in your pursuit to make more of an impact than you're making today? I know you're willing to get better. That's why you listen to the podcast. What I don't know is, are you willing to be relentless? Are you willing to do something every day? Doesn't mean you got to do it all day. I don't read all day. I don't watch videos or podcasts or listen to podcasts or audiobooks all day. But I do some form of personal growth and development related to those things every day. It may only be 5 minutes. But if I do it 5 minutes in a day, I done it that day. I did it that day. And I'm going to tell you, it ain't ever just 5 minutes. But if it was 5 minutes, I would have accomplished my goal for the day. Do something every day. And there may be some type of competency you need to get where you want to go. You got to have the character to get you there. But you got to have some type of competency. Are you relentlessly developing your character and your competency? I know a lot of people are relentless about partying on the weekends. They're relentless about hunting and fishing and golfing and all kinds of things like that, which is fine, as long as you're happy when you're not doing those things. See, a lot of people go do those things relentlessly, and they're happy while they're doing it. When they're not doing it, though, they're miserable with the rest of their life. If you're miserable in any part of your life, be relentless. Do something about it. Truett Cathy, the founder of Chick-fil-A, he's passed away now, but he had this to say. He says, it's always too soon to quit. It's always easier to succeed at what you've started than to quit early and fail. You may be thinking, well, it's easy to quit early and fail. You know, why is Truett saying it's always easier to succeed what you've started than to quit early and fail? If you succeed, your life's going to be great. That's why. If you quit early and fail, your life's going to be miserable. It's easier to have a great life than it is a miserable life. It's all about context. It's how you read. When you read a quote or a thought, and I share quotes and thoughts every single day, it's another way I'm relentless. I don't just read. You know, I've shared that with you as an example of how I'm relentless. But I've been posting on social media every day since 2011. 12 years. I've been reading every day 15 years. 3 years into that, I decided I'm going to post on social media every day. I've been doing podcasts every week for 5 years. And I've started doing newsletters. I've written 350-something articles on LinkedIn, but I didn't always do it every week. For a while I did, but now I'm doing newsletters that you can subscribe to on LinkedIn. And that's something now I'm doing weekly. I think maybe I've done it for 2-3 months now. At the time I'm recording this podcast, which is on, actually recording this podcast July 17th, 2023. It ain't going to be scheduled to come out until August 28th. That's because my schedules are pretty erratic sometimes. The month of August, I'm going to be super, super busy. So if I want to have podcasts to release to you guys, I got to record them today. This is my 5th podcast episode I've recorded today. They're going to come out once a week, so I've got 5 weeks worth of podcast recorded today on this Monday morning and afternoon that I'm recording. If I want to be relentless, I got to figure out how to make it happen. I got to write newsletters. I got to have one of those come out once a week also. So sometime soon, next day or two, I'm going to be writing and scheduling a lot of newsletters to go out. I got a plan for all my posting that I got to do every day. That's what being relentless looks like in my life. Why do I do it? Why am I relentless like that? Because I want to help you. All that stuff I just told you that I do, all that, I don't get paid for any of that. All that's for free. So we're going to wrap up this 30-part episode on blue-collar leadership and teamwork, 30 traits of high-impact players. Hope you go out and get the paperback book. There's an audio book. There's an ebook. But I think this type content is best learned through a real book that you can reference, and you can fold pages, you can highlight, you can see it. Well, I'm going to wrap up today's session. Be relentless. Talk to you next time.
Make it happen or someone else will. It might as well be you. Are you serious about taking your career and your life to the next level and beyond? Check out Mac Story's Blue Collar Leadership series books and others, now available on audio, along with paperback and ebooks at Amazon, iTunes, and Audible. Please visit bluecollarleadership.com to learn about Mac's books, programs, special offers, certifications, and more. Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast.